Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the 𝗕𝗲𝗧𝗕𝗏 Show. We have a good episode coming up. Definitely good. I'm guessing good fights between the Inter and the Juve fans expected in this upcoming episode. So with that, obviously you've guessed it. It's the Inter Milan versus Juventus game coming up on Sunday, and we're going to preview that with Alex, Cliff, and JuventinOLou. Welcome, guys. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing well, and I noticed you made sure I'm outnumbered here by Juventini. So I, I I appreciate the opportunity to try and hold my own with this debate, but it's so great to be back on your show.
I think you're the one Inter fan, and I think that makes up for all the Inter fans. So I guess
Thank
you're
you.
one person that's more than enough for us.
Well, don't say that because I don't like many Inter fans, and I like Alex. So
Right? Yeah. Before we do start, do you mind introducing yourselves a little bit? I know, like Cliff and Juventino, you're definitely first on our channel. Do you mind you just introducing yourselves and your channel as well?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Cliff Esmiol. I'm a Juve fan. I am part of the AllJuveCast team with my boy Lou. To the left or right of me, I can't really tell. But yeah. So and I usually run spaces also on Twitter on a weekly basis. So that's kind of what I do.
yeah, and I'm JuventinOLou on Twitter, or you could just call me Lou, whichever one. And I'm also a member of the All Juve Cast, and I'm happy to be here. Massive Juve fan, and looking forward to getting into the derby this weekend.
Awesome.
It's
Yeah,
gonna be a great
we're all looking forward to that. Yeah, Alex, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I'm happy to be back. Alex Donno. I do a lot of I cover Inter, I cover American sports, but for we run a Calcio channel, Jerry Mancini and I, the Calcio Connection. There's probably a little bit of Inter and Lazio bias with us because those are the clubs that we support, but we try to bring on good people like the men below us and 𝗕𝗲𝗏𝗕𝗏 Napoli supporters to try and get all perspectives. So we try and keep things balanced as possible.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, go ahead and check out the Calcio Connection as well, right? I think since I was introduced to that, I think I've been listening to that almost pretty often. So yeah, thank
Thank you.
you. It's a great content, Alex over there. Before we do start, I will have to promote my channel as well. So this is the 𝗕𝗲𝗧𝗕𝗏 Show. Please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to that. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter as well for most of the content that's going on globally across the top 5 leagues. That's what we're covering this season on the 𝗕𝗲𝗧𝗕𝗏 Show. So do make sure that you like, share, and subscribe for that for any of the content that you'd like to see. With that being said, let's get into it, guys. The top teams in Italy returned to Serie A duty this weekend following an exciting round of fixtures in the Champions League, group stages. There's a mixed bag of results for the Italian sides, flying the flag on the continent, but they can leave that distraction behind because we've got the biggest game coming up in Serie A, which is the Inter Milan versus Juventus. Let's talk a little bit about Inter Milan first. Inter Milan have definitely fared better than the opponents thus far, but they entered this match back of an unconvincing run of form that has seen them drop third in the table, behind Napoli and derby rivals AC Milan. Um, Inter Milan are experienced enough and successful to know the consistency. To know consistency is key to winning the Serie A title. But the club have lacked that in the recent weeks. They prepare for this match with their stats for the league campaign showing 5 wins and 2 draws against 1 defeat, scoring 23 goals and conceding 11. They've accumulated 17 points up until now. They're already behind current leaders Napoli, who have a 100% record, which we're not going to get into today. But I'm guessing that they're gonna drop points. It's not going to be a 100% record in coming in the upcoming weeks. AC Milan are second with 22 points and have won each of their last 4. Inter must definitely get a move on, or they could just find themselves dropping further off of what is a ferocious pace and bitter battle for supremacy. Alex, I'll take this question to you first. Obviously, what are you thinking? Like, even talking a little bit about today's game as well. Obviously it was Sheriff, but they had a scare at around 50 minutes when Sheriff scored that extremely really good free kick. What are you expecting from this game, and do you really see that Inter have a chance to against Juve?
Well, you dropped, I think, the most important word, and that's consistency. And Inter haven't really had that. I mean, the results on the pitch, as you mentioned, have certainly not been bad. I mean, two draws and a defeat. They're actually on a better pace right now than they were at this time a season ago. But I think another important stat is you mentioned 11 goals given up. They played 8 games. 11 goals shipped is too many. The back line, which was incredible last year. I mean, they had the top defense statistically in Serie A season ago. Has been a little bit inconsistent. And the goalkeeping with 𝗕𝗲𝗓𝗏𝗏, who's clearly past his prime. I think there's a few fan bases who can relate to that right now, including the gentleman below me, having, an aging keeper who's no longer consistent. And that's really been the issue. It's not been so much scoring goals for Inter. It's been, I think, kind of a lack of balance between the defense and the attack. They've been caught out and caught with their pants down defensively a few too many times. And so, looking forward to this Juve match, to answer your question, can Inter win? They can, sure. They did well in the home fixture a season ago against Juventus, taking a 2-0 victory. The form between the two sides is a little bit different heading into this one. Inter having the defensive problems that I talked about. And then I look at Juventus and, the club who had a very slow start to the season, they're really starting to redefine the identity of Max Allegri, who's, back after 2 seasons away. And I see them now, 4 or 5 straight matches grinding out these 1-0 wins, which keeping clean sheets, which is kind of an Allegri signature. And so right there, that tells me Inter are going to have to score first in this game. I think that's really, really important, is really trying to attack. And I think you saw signs of that in the Sheriff game. Not to say the quality of opponents is the same. Sheriff, though, did make me a little bit nervous because they had won their first 2 Champions League games. So I didn't know what to expect. But Inter made sure that attacking wise, they were on the front foot for most of that match. And I like the way that they approached it. With Juventus, I think Inter are going to have to score the opening goal to cause Juve to open up a little bit more, because God forbid if Juventus score first, then they're going to get very compact and they're going to be really tough to break down and really tough to score against. They're going to become very cynical. So I look at, the recent form in Inter's attack. Eden Dzeko has been a revelation. He is 35 years old, so I think that there are going to be some times when he's going to struggle with consistency, but he's on an excellent run of form right now. I think he can be very good in this game. Lautaro Martinez, who, was not available from the start against Lazio, coming back from South America for the international break. I think his fitness is now better. The midfield is doing pretty well. Brozovic and Barella are on great runs of form. Inter, their wing backs have been a little bit up and down, but I think the most important thing is going to be not making any mistakes in the back line, because I think Juventus can make them pay if they make mistakes. So it's a winnable match. But as I was discussing with my colleagues here off the air before the show started, as an Interista, I always get very nervous heading into these matchups against Juventus, because for the most part over the last several seasons, this fixture has not been kind to Inter. Outside of a very good 2-0 victory in the home leg a season ago, Inter have suffered a lot against Juve. So I don't take anything for granted heading into this game. It's always a tough one for Inter.
Yeah, I think Juve has made everyone suffer in the last decade. I would say that's
everyone but Lazio, who's had our number a couple times.
That's right.
Yeah.
So hopefully there's an Inzaghi factor there. Hopefully, that was the Simone Inzaghi magic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But do you feel like do you still see, since obviously Antonio Conte was still just there for like a couple of months ago, do you still see some kind of a reflection of this side when Antonio Conte's reflection in this side? Do you still see that? Because I definitely see some of the reflections that Antonio Conte's left. Obviously Lukaku's left, Hakimi's left, and that definitely disrupted the quality and even the togetherness in the squad. Or I would say probably the proper word would be the balance, right? that definitely still lacking, but I think Inzaghi is doing a good job. It's just that I see still like some reflections of Conte in this squad. Do you feel that?
Yeah, yes and no. In the yes column, I think certain players Conte made a lot better, and they're carrying those gains with them. Like Barella, Conte made a lot better. Bastoni, who's been a little bit inconsistent, but Conte really helped him discover his form. And like 𝗵𝗲𝗪𝗁, when he came back to Inter after being away for a season, like he really rediscovered his confidence under Conte, and he's doing very well still to this day. I think where Inter have lost a little bit of the magic, and this may not really be Inzaghi's fault, because you mentioned no longer having Lukaku and 𝗂𝗍𝗓. I think that those losses are bigger than people realize, because I think without having those two players, that really makes a difference in how Inter's able to defend. Because I think under Conte, when Inter were off the ball, they were able to defend really compact with all their 11 players, because they knew they could break in the counterattack so dynamically when you have someone who is so fast like 𝗂𝗍𝗓 and so big, strong, and fast like Lukaku. And I think they've lost some of that. And I think that's why you're seeing a little bit of discombobulation when it comes to kind of phasing the defense to the attack. Is they can't play as compact as they could under Conte, because they can't break as quickly as they could under Conte. And I'm not really going to blame Inzaghi so much on that. I think that has a lot to do with the losses of Lukaku and 𝗂𝗍𝗓. And like I said, like Dzeko is playing great, but he's a different type of player than Lukaku. He just doesn't add the same elements that Lukaku did.
Yeah, I think that's well said. I'm seeing the Juventus fans definitely getting eager to say something on this fixture. I'll take their advice as well, and I'll take their opinions as well on this game. Juventus suffered a very a tricky start, but appear to have found, as Alex said, their feet, and a recent winning run has thrown them back into the contention for major places. A win here would set their title challenge on track, and while showing the club's critics, they're ready to resume their dominance of Italian football. Fans, pundits, and even critics wanted to know how the team would cope being challengers after a decade of being champions. Ronaldo left to make an emotional return to Manchester United. I'm very happy about that. So thank God for that. He came back to Manchester United, not going to Manchester City. But those left behind seem to struggle under the weight of that expectation. They made a very slow start to the season that had supporters worried it could be another tough campaign. Juventus start this match down in the 7th in Serie A, with stats of this league campaign showing 4 wins, 2 draws, and a couple of defeats, scoring a dozen goals but conceding 10. Obviously, those 10 goals that were conceded were based on that that tricky start that Juventus had. But now, if you look at the recent 6 fixtures, I think this was their 6th win in a row today that they made against Zenit. So what do you think has changed in Juventus's team, and what has Allegri actually said? Because I read a lot after that game against AC Milan that he really was pissed at a lot of players, like why, like if you're wearing the Juventus shirt, you need to start performing at the level that Juventus are supposed to be, right? What do you guys think in terms of Juventus's recent performances, and what has changed from their tricky start?
Lou, do you want to take it?
Yeah, I'll start. It's kind of a loaded answer, because I think that the reason Juventus started like they did, they were down a couple players. 𝗕𝗃𝗃 kind of came in a little late, and then there was the fiasco that was the Ronaldo stain, Ronaldo leaving, and then you had the howlers, and then the weird international break. Like we have a very deep European core. A lot of those players went deep in Europe or for Brazil, in the Copa America, and it set us back a little bit, because we didn't really have anyone till September, maybe October even, for some of those matches. Allegri talked a little bit about that recently in his press conference, saying that, hey, I made mistakes early on. I tried to play a certain way. In the Empoli game, he experimented a lot with the lineup, kind of, misjudged Empoli. Serie A, where it is now and where it was when Allegri left, teams like Empoli would have parked the bus when Allegri was here last time. But now they play on the front foot. It's very attacking. Now the bottom table teams, they want to score as many goals as the top table teams. It's really fascinating to watch. So I think that, the condensed schedule, having 5 substitutions, Allegri had to adjust himself. I think the biggest thing that he's brought back to this team, like you mentioned, is mentality. That famous clip, and Cliff will know this, you guys might as well, after the Milan game where he runs into the locker room and he goes, and these guys think they're worse shit, for Juventus. I mean, they're not. And that was the big thing. We would say that all the time. Last 2 years, these guys, like, except for 2 or 3, don't have that Juventus mentality. And so Allegri, being that fiery person and building that mentality himself, Conte established it, but Allegri took it to another level. He represents that, and he has like rediscovered it in the squad. So it really helps in that regard, from the mental standpoint. The tactical standpoint, Allegri realizes with this squad, it's not a very good squad. Like on paper, Inter squad is better than our squad.
Yeah.
I think, at least. I think the Inter have the best squad in Serie A right now on paper. But Allegri has now looked at this team and says, hey, in the midfield, we got 1 creative player and 4 midfielders. They're all square pegs that fit in circle, or square pieces that fit in circle pegs, right? Like 𝗕𝗲𝗪, Ramsey, Bentancur, McKennie, they all kind of do the same thing, but they don't do anything like really different. So he's kind of simplified everyone's role. He's like, Bentancur, you're box to box, you win the ball back. 𝗕𝗲𝗪, you sit in front of the fence, you create, and we'll see how he uses Arthur going forward. He's taken players like 𝗕𝗲𝗪 and Bernardeschi and simplified their roles a little bit. Found a soft spot for him, so they're useful players. And he's realized that, hey, we can't win games 2-3, 4-0, because we don't have the midfield to play that, and we don't have the health up front to do that. So he's realized the strength of this team is in the backbone. And what you've seen this last 8 matches in a row that we've won, except for maybe the first 2 against Sampdoria and Spezia, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Those, since then, it's been very, hey, we're going to start from the back, or it's going to be ugly, but we're going to grind out results. And, now that Arthur's back, now that 𝗕𝗲𝗪's back, we might see a little change there. But, it's all about the results at the end of the day. And I couldn't be happier with what's going on for us.
Yeah, so my boy Lou didn't leave me any crumbs. He basically summed everything up. He didn't leave me anything to work with.
I'm sorry, Cliff.
So you hit on so much. It was really great, very articulate. I'm so happy I let you go first. But for this, the first point, the Milan game was the tone setter for, I think, the rest of the season. That was the turning point of the season. Allegri was pissed, rightfully so. And I think that ignited something in these players. And also from a mental aspect, this is the mentality of a classic Allegri team, a team that can win games 1-0, 2-0, very scrappy, not the prettiest. The end of that match was pretty scary actually against Zenit. It wasn't pretty, and even against Roma, we kind of had a feeling we could close it up, but they still had some chances in the end. But against this Inter team, you won't be able to get away with any mistakes. They will capitalize on those mistakes, especially with Lautaro and Dzeko up front. That being said, this team actually reflects a little bit, like you mentioned Conte earlier. I think Conte's system is very similar to what Allegri is trying to do now. The classic, they score a goal, and then the second half of the Zenit game, well, not the Zenit game, but in any game that Conte played, he would park the bus. He would basically sit back, easy as you like, let everybody just absorb the pressure. Now Allegri likes to do the same thing. So you're seeing a very similar style of play. And then the fino alla fine mentality is making a comeback. You're seeing it in the players. Obviously, Chiellini with his diving tackles, Bonucci even. De Ligt is the embodiment of fino alla fine. He was all over the pitch today against Zenit, and he is the future. So I want to tell everybody right now who thinks, oh, De Ligt might leave. No. He's not going anywhere. He's loving his football right now. He's very happy. But yeah, I mean, Lou didn't leave me anything. Like I said, he left me nothing to say.
Yeah.
He literally
I'm
took
sorry, Cliff.
it's
No,
okay.
no. I think I always kept saying this, that through the Euros, like how Italy, actually won the Euros. You're not going to see Chiellini and Bonucci type defenders ever again. I don't see, like, in my lifetime, like in the time that I'm gonna be alive, I'm not gonna see those classic defenders in the name of Bonucci and Chiellini. I think football is changing; it's evolving every day, and even see that kind of Italian defending is no longer there. I mean, yeah, it's still very focused on like the teams actually sit back, and if you look at the Serie A games and all that stuff, like they really classically defend. But you're not going to see those kind of defenders ever again, probably. Not ever again, probably, but soon enough.
A lot of players you see now, they want center backs who are big, strong, physical, who can run really fast. They don't worry about the technicality. That's why we're seeing people say Van Dijk's the best center back in the world. No. In my opinion, the best center backs in the world include de Vrij, Skriniar, de Ligt, Koulibaly, even Bonucci in some cases when he's paired with Chiellini. So these are guys who we need to be rating. We can't be rating Van Dijk, who's a fine player, but he's not at that world-class level. I think we forget this. He went to the Prem when he was 27, I believe. Chiellini and Bonucci were doing this when they were in their early 20s. So I think there's no comparison.
You know, you go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I just thought about this while Cliff was speaking about, like kind of like Juventus and the change. One of the things that Allegri does really well is his presence, like his aura in the press conferences, right? He puts a lot of the blame on himself. He defends players, and he's funny. Like he's kind of like loose. Like I knew that it was so refreshing. His first press conference, he was asked about Bonucci and who was going to wear the captain's armband. And he said that Bonucci can wear it in the streets of Milan, but he left and came back. He can't wear it here. And he has worn it since. But that was the old Juventus. And then like he hired Paduan as an assistant. And if you notice, like Cliff, I'm sure you've noticed, like legendary players from the last, those 9-year run of Scudettos have come back to the stadium. Evra was doing matches. Marchisio, Conte was in the stands for a little bit. Lichtsteiner, yeah. The atmosphere is kind of different around the club now because you have someone who's a focal point there for so long. And I think like there's another great quote before the Roma game where he was asked about Alex Sandro, who Juventus fans, they know that Sandro mentally can lapse out here and there. And he was like, oh, Sandro's not going to play this week because he walked through the wrong door or something like that. There's just like, that's so like spot on like why Sandro shouldn't play during the game sometimes. And it's just like that kind of like enthusiasm and that kind of like aura. He just absorbs so much pressure off the team. And I think it's really been missed in the last couple of years. Whereas like, Pirlo maybe didn't know how to handle it as well as like Allegri does.
Going off of that real quick, what Lou said, Allegri knows how to push the right buttons. Like De Sciglio had that great performance against Roma, and he was saying, oh, we always knew he had this in him. Nobody knew he had this in him. He played great against Zenit. He played great against Roma. He knows how to like bring players up. He knows who to bring down a little bit. He knows how to push the right buttons and how to get certain players antagonized and get them fired up. So that's what makes him such a competent manager compared to the likes of Sarri, who wasn't as much of a man manager. He wasn't as good with the players as Allegri is. And then also Pirlo. Well, Pirlo hadn't even coached, his kids 5-a-side. So.
Yeah, he should have coached. I mean, he was originally Pirlo supposed to coach the Primavera. That would have been perfect for him. Like they put him in a terrible situation having him manage the senior club.
Yeah. I think it's good enough that Pirlo actually was sacked, because if this Ronaldo debacle happened with him still at the club, I don't think even he would have actually rectified anything. And actually, Juventus would have been actually still. I mean, I'm guessing by now Pirlo would have easily been sacked, because I don't think he could have actually turned things around, given how Allegri has done it.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about Allegri, he was asked a little bit in the lead up to the Ronaldo thing, a lot about it, and he was kind of like, "Hey, like Ronaldo's just another guy," and this is the thing about Max is he's so confident, right? Like he's not afraid of anything. And it's
that's what experience brings you with, right? Like he has that experience, and he knows what to do with the squad. Like you keep mentioning about like all the other great coaches that are around Europe. Like it's not like you're depending upon one player. You adapt based on what you have, right? You look at Pep Guardiola. Like he's doing my masters. He's doing a master class every other week. Like he doesn't have a number 9 for like 18 months now, and he's still doing tremendous things.
Also had $1 billion to work with. Just saying.
That's a different conversation, and totally for another podcast. Before we do conclude, Alex, you want to share how do you think like Inter Milan is going to set up for this particular game? Do you think still a 3-5-2? How they've been actually playing?
Yeah, I've got a pretty good idea. This is just my guess, of course, given we're still days away from the match. But I have a pretty good sense as to who the starting 11 will be. I think that this is the 11 that Inzaghi probably sees as his big game starting 11. Handanovic in net, which of course is never in doubt. Bastoni, who came off the bench in the Champions League match, I think he'll be back in the starting 11 at left center back with 𝗕𝗲𝗏 and Skriniar, the rest of the back three. And I think he'll go with 𝗕𝗏𝗁 at left wing back, who's been good this year and versatile because he even had to play second striker against Lazio, which is not ideal for him. He's kind of a Swiss Army knife, but I think he'll be the left wing back. I think Matteo Darmian will likely start at right wing back because Denzel Dumfries is just not, I don't think he's consistent enough yet to start in a big match like this. You could easily pencil in Brozovic and Barella, the first two in the three-man midfield. They're having sensational years. Brozovic has been he's been in such good form this year. I think Hakan Çalhanoğlu will likely be back in the starting 11, which is good news for Juventus supporters because a lot of inconsistency.
Love to see that. Love to see that.
and then I'm sure that the front two will be Dzeko and Lautaro. We'll probably see Correa come off the bench. I don't know if we'll see Alexis in this match, even though he did make a cameo against Sheriff. I'm not sure if we'll see him in this one. And we'll probably, at some point, we'll probably see DiMarco subbed on, could see Dumfries subbed on, could see Correa subbed on. And so, but yeah, I think that starting 11 is, I would strongly suspect that's the way Inzaghi goes.
Yeah. Inter's definitely got really good squad depth. Definitely. I think there are players on the bench who can definitely change the game in an instant when we know Inzaghi needs them. Sorry.
Oh no, and I'll add one more thing.
Yeah.
Another guy who's been really good, who I could see coming off the bench and having an impact, is Arturo Vidal. And honestly, maybe he should start this match because he had his best match of last season. Probably the only good match he played last season was the first game against Juventus, where he scored and played really well. So he could be an impact player in this one.
How and just so because I have you here, how have you liked Dumfries' performances up until now?
Inconsistent, but I'm not hitting the panic button. Some Interisti are already like, oh no, this guy's bad. We made a mistake. It's a difficult transition to come from the Dutch league to Serie A. It's going to take time for him. He's just he's had maybe two really good games and then some spotty performances. But as I remind people, for as great as Achraf Hakimi was last year, he didn't really find his form until late November, early December. Like, it took him a long time. So I'm going to give Dumfries some time and the benefit of the doubt because I watched him before he arrived at Inter and I rate him. So I think he's going to be fine, but he's not been great overall.
At least you have a Dutch player who's actually playing. We don't even have a player who's playing. He's just sitting on the bench and watching all the games.
Hopefully he joins Juventus in January.
Lou and Cliff, you guys want to share your thoughts on how the playing 11 might pan out for this game?
So I'm gonna go first this time.
Yeah, I'm gonna let Cliff
Lou
go
doesn't
first this
steal
time.
everything from me.
I'm gonna try to
leave
something for Cliff.
I'm gonna leave maybe the smallest crumb for Lou. So for this lineup, I'm projecting very similar to what we saw today. I think we're gonna see a 4-3-3 again. I think we see Szczęsny in goal. I'm really torn on left back because I really think Allegri might even consider putting 𝗕𝗲𝗓 in this match just because of his good form in the last few matches. I'm not sure what Lou thinks, but I'm thinking 𝗕𝗲𝗓, but my brain says Sandro. I think he starts Sandro for this match, and I think you go Chiellini, Bonucci, and then the right back I think we see 𝗂𝗏𝗏, and then the midfielders will be Locatelli. I think Artur gets his first start this season, and then along them will be McKennie because McKennie played well. I think you see those three in the midfield, and then up top I think we see. I think we see Chiesa on the left again. I think we see Morata again up top. And then I think we see Bernardeschi on the right. Actually, no. Scrap that. I think we see Kulusevski after the game winner. I think maybe he puts a little bit of confidence in Allegri to start that lineup. And to be honest, Chiesa could play both wings, so that's interchangeable. You could have him on either side. But I don't expect 𝗕𝗲𝗓 to come on until probably like the 65th minute, around that time, just so he can kind of, work his way back into the squad.
Yeah, I see it just a little differently. I think we'll go back to a 4-4-2. I think you're right about the left back. I don't think that Sandro is going to be fit for the weekend. They reported today he's had some stomach issues. He seemed a little off during the match today, so I think we might see 𝗕𝗲𝗓𝗏 occupy that left back role. The center back, between the three of them, Bonucci, Chiellini, de Ligt, there's no wrong combination. So whoever they play, it's fine with me. I think we'll see Danilo come back at right back. He's fit, correct, Cliff?
I believe so. I don't think there's any issues with his fitness.
Okay, yeah. So I think we'll see Danilo slot back in at right back, and it'll be a flat 4-4-2. So I think that we'll see in the midfield, we'll see Arthur, Locatelli, Bentancur, Bernardeschi, and then we'll see Chiesa, Morata up front. And the reason that sounds a little funky when I describe it, but when Danilo plays there, he almost becomes a third center back. So we'll see some form of a back three shifting into the 4-4-2. Allegri will move it around a bit. And I think part of the reason we see that is Inter's biggest strength comes in the midfield. That 5 across they have with those midfielders and the wing backs is really, really difficult. And I think, too, if you can get Bernardeschi to follow someone like Brozovic around the pitch like Kulusevski did last year, that's an avenue for Juventus to kind of shut them down a little bit. If you could take the head off the snake early and, get Brozovic out of the game, I think be a huge advantage. But
I like what you did there. You said take the head off the snake.
Yeah. It's a little fun for you, Alex. Yeah. But yeah, so that's my prediction for the match. I think Allegri keeps it simple.
Yeah. I know. I would probably say start even Keane. Oh, sorry, not Keane. Morata definitely. I think definitely he should start, and he's definitely been a good player for them up until now. Obviously, he got injured in the last few weeks. If Juventus's this run has definitely come based on, like, if they score early, they definitely can. They're able to defend right now, but right before the first tricky start that they have first few games, they were scoring like really early goals, but they were not able to stay in the game because teams were actually like just running them over. Even if we talk about the Napoli game or even the AC Milan game, I think they absolutely ran them over, and that's why they were not able to consistently provide results at that time.
And I think it's worth noting the first 15 minutes of this game will be extremely crucial, because against Roma, the first 15 minutes was very nervy from Juventus, and Roma had a lot of opportunities early on, and they looked very scared at times at the back. And then in the Zenit game, they came out a little bit more with a little bit of pep in their step. So I think if they do that against Inter and they come on the front foot and they try to attack, as opposed to being a little bit more defensive and trying to absorb pressure, I think if they can get a goal early, or even if they can put pressure on Inter early, they can, set this game up or this match up for a good potential win.
Yeah. So, go ahead,
sorry, just one more thing to piggyback off of Cliff. One thing I noticed today in the Sheriff match a little bit was the Inter. There was a huge gap right down the middle today on the counterattack. And that's where, I think that Juventus will probably, like Cliff said, attack early, and then they'll settle back a little bit because they'll look to exploit that gap with Chiesa. Some of the midfielders, Bentancur makes great runs through there. So we'll see what happens in that. But I think it's a huge avenue for Juventus to hit them on the counter and try and get a goal or two, kind of like they did against Chelsea and some of the other teams.
Yeah, I think that's going to be their game plan, to hit Inter on the counter. I think Inter's gonna. I feel like Inter's gonna dominate this game in terms of ball possession. And I feel like Juventus are going to hit them on the counter.
And that's another one of the things that's a little bit different from Inzaghi versus Conte, where Conte he was perfectly happy if his team only had 30% of the ball. I think Inzaghi in a game like this, he's going to want Inter to be more ball dominant. So another reason why I think Inter need to score quickly, because I think they will, like you said, they will try and attack early. They need to capitalize, because if they don't, Juventus can hit them on the counter.
Yes, definitely. Teams met 4 times last season in league and cup action. Juventus claiming 2 wins, Inter Milan 1 and a single draw. The most recent clash produced a thrilling 3-2 home victory for the old lady. That being said, guys, it's time for predictions. So, what are your predictions? Like, who wins it? Who or are we thinking it's just going to be a boring draw?
I don't think it'll be boring,
Yeah.
but I am going to say a draw. I think it's going to be a 1-1, and I think it's going to this is the way I envision it playing out in my dreams and my nightmares, is that Inter will score first, they'll play well, they'll probably give up a goal around the 85th minute to drop a couple of points. I could see it playing out that way. I'm thinking 1-1 draw.
Lou, you want to go this time, or you gonna steal my thunder?
Well, I can't bet against Juventus, so regrettably, I'm going to pick them to win. I'm going to do it 2-1. I don't think it's going to be an open game. I think it's going to be a hard-fought game. But I don't think Juventus will keep the clean sheet in this one. But I do think we can get 1 to 2 goals in this match. And I just feel like the above the 1-0 performance is coming. But maybe that's just me overthinking it.
Everybody's going to hate me because I usually always love to say Juventus is going to win because obviously I'm a Juventus fan. But I'm going to be realistic in this sense. I think it's going to be a 1-1 stalemate up until the final minutes, and Juve is going to absorb one too many opportunities. And then some crazy opportunity is going to happen, and Lautaro or probably Dzeko is going to do a toe poke into the goal. Some crazy goal is going to happen right at the end. So I think it's just going to bite them one too many times. They're going to absorb pressure, and they're going to concede. But I expect the next game after that, they're going to win 5-0. So that's how we're expecting it to go.
Cliff, if we lose 2-1 in that way, I'm driving to Connecticut and slapping you.
That is so
And I'm
fair,
driving
man.
to Connecticut, and I'm shaking your hand.
I just try to be – I try not to always be super biased because I'm always calling Juventus to win. Every once in a while, I can't just always say Juve is going to win.
Yeah, I'm openly biased. I'll just admit it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably going to go with a 2-2 draw. So I'm going to stay with Alex. I'm expecting a little bit more goals in the game. So I'll probably say a 2-2 draw with everyone being happy at the end of the day. So yeah, yeah. I guess that concludes our podcast. Lou, Cliff, Alex, as usual, please, thank you so much for coming on to our podcast and sharing your thoughts on this game on Sunday.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for getting us all together. This was awesome.
Yeah, it's a fun time. We should do this again.
This is a good group, man.
Yeah,
definitely. Please make sure before we do log off, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to the Late Winner Show. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter as well. I'll leave the links in the description below, and follow Alex, Cliff's, and Lou's podcast as well. I think Lou and Cliff are both
the AllJuveCast.
The AllJuve podcast. Yeah. So I'll leave the links in the description below. Definitely go ahead and check it out. Great content for Inter, great content for Juve. With that, I will say good night and see you guys really, really soon, guys.